Well, that was kind of lame. There we go. Alright. It's a stock sound effect. It's nothing I came up with. Just it came with the program. Alright. So here's the thing. I was just sitting here in my studio, thinking and chit-chatting with nobody at all. Did I answer myself? Kind of, but not really. In other words, I kind of imagined what someone might how someone might react to something I said. You know, what they might say in response to me saying something. For example, knowing how people are, knowing that they're argumentative little pain in the ass people things sometimes. Like they would say, I say, you know, government has nothing to do with it, whatever the topic may be, and then they'll chime in, you know, with their little voices and say, but that's not right, you know, and like argue and say nasty stuff and say you're an idiot and you're a pervert and you're creepy and you know, all that stuff. All kind of words. Now you see, here I wanted to say this. There are words that even I don't like to say. Because when I say them, people like it's like a, what do you call it? It's almost like a spontaneous reaction. And never a good one. Because they're not capable of I'm not talking about everybody. Yeah, right. You know, like you're an intelligent person. You're not going to do that. Yeah. The odds are you will. But maybe you're one of the intelligent people. Maybe you're the exception to the rule when it comes to human nature and human stupidity and shit. I hope that you're at least somewhat more intelligent than the average. But then again, if I'm talking to the people in general, then I'm talking to a lot of average people or people who are below average. Because the odds are, like 93% to 7, that you're average or below average. So anyway, I say something, I use words, people say, oh, and they get mad at me and they get really hateful and mean and barbaric. Excuse me. And sometimes, like, if I say the word abortion, then, you know, a lot of people are going to like, oh, it's murdering babies. You know, like the fucking idiots that they are. You got the word fucking in right up in the first 4 minutes of the show. Does this mean I have to label it explicit? No, I'll tell you what's explicit. My finger up your pussy. Oh, you're nasty. Yeah. Well, it's obscene. It's gross. It's creepy. Whatever. Okay? Let me tell you something. If you're a girl and you haven't been totally destroyed and ruined by the mind benders and the idiots of the world, the very thought of having a finger stuck up your pussy would probably be a good thing. I'm saying. Just saying. I mean, come on. If you're a guy and you're not thinking, ooh, and you're not picturing that right now, if you're not, in your mind, if you're not thinking of a finger, you know, probably your finger, you know, up a girl's pussy, and, you know, and like rubbing on her clit a little bit, if you're not thinking that picture, there's something wrong with you, boy. Oh, that's just terrible. No, that's probably the desire of every male human being on the planet. At least if he's over the age of, say, 10. And if you're normal, like normal female person, and if you're over the age of 10 or 12, you're probably thinking about your pussy and your finger in it and rubbing your clit yourself, because duh. All right, so you're thinking, oh yeah, this guy's like, I don't give a fuck. You don't like what I'm saying, smack yourself just for me, okay? Just go up yourself, your head, because you're being silly. I express on the human condition. It's what I do. It's what I am. It's my job. It's my occupation. It's a part of and descriptive of my existence as a human being. I look at people. I see people. I analyze, study people. Human behavior. I admit, mostly as an individually, like each person, one at a time, kind of thing. I'm not too big on mobs. I'm not particularly fond of crowds of thongs of masses of people, because usually they're usually that's probably means something bad is going to happen. And then again, I see pictures of people that are like thousands of people who are watching a football game, or thousands of people, tens of thousands of people are like gathered in front of the White House or whatever. That could be good. It could be bad. Depends. If you go to Washington to join a march, and I might say this here, I'm rambling a little, but it's kind of my style. And if you can't keep up, then you're going to just kind of miss out, because every little detail is important. Consider it a collage. Consider it a collection of thoughts put together in some sort of rational thinking process. And you, in your case, listening process. Listen to every detail, because everything's important. It all makes up the total, the uniplexity of it all. One mind, many thoughts. And they all connect, and they're all rational. Well, in my case, pretty much rational. You never know what the next sentence is going to be, is what I'm saying. And that's good, because you should be paying attention, I would think. If you're bored with one line of thought, then just wait a couple of minutes and it'll be something else. And it's all connected, because it's all has to do with human beings and human nature and human behavior. And there's society and there's psychology and so forth. All of it very interesting, even if you're a dimwit. Now, I didn't mean to put you down, but seriously. Okay, so you're not interested in everything I'm saying. You're not even interested in anything I'm saying. Then what the fuck are you listening for? Because you're curious? Because you have a morbid curiosity? Because you just can't wait to hear what I'm going to say next. And you're thinking, oh, maybe he'll say something funny and I can laugh. Yeah, well, probably. Eventually, at least once in a while, I say something funny. Because I'm kind of I got that comedian thing going for me there too, but not always. Because a lot of times what I talk about, what I think, what I see, what I experience in life, what I observe, is just not funny. Like arresting some guy who's like 18 or 19 years old for having sex with his 17-year-old girlfriend. I mean, that's not funny. That's just criminal, insane bullshit. And, the people that put this guy in prison should be dead. I mean, they don't deserve to be on this planet. They are just mean, evil people. What are you saying, D? I'm saying that people who arrest people and put them in a cage for, having a joint in their pocket are evil. And they are the last people on this planet who should be policemen. Yeah, I know, police persons. Okay, I'll compromise. Police officer. By the way, when you use the word police officer, you mean an officer of something, because officer is connected to some kind of system, like the law, like legal system, like the court system. So an officer, police officer, is an officer of the court. He's not a policeman that works for, let's say, a mafia. Well, in America, yeah, because the government is a mafia. On a bad day, I call it the Matrix, which people say, oh, you're talking Matrix, you know. And yeah, Matrix is real, by the way. There is definitely a Matrix, and it's the system. It's just another word that's an ominous word for the system, for the existence that now exists. The system, the government, basically is what I'm saying. Bottom line, government, Matrix, mafia, evil. And by the way, America is not the greatest country in the world. I mean, if you think that, fine. You know, delusional, but fine. Just don't tell me that. Don't say it to my face, because I would probably just laugh at you and then cry because you're just an idiot. There are other societies on this planet that are better in various ways than the United States of America. Oh, by the way, the United States is the name of the government, not the country. The name of the country is America. Or more specifically, the union of, let's say, 50, though that's a dubious number, 50 states, which is nation states as it was originally designed and should still be, because, you know, the state of Virginia is actually a country. Think of it this way. When Russia started collecting countries to be under its wing, or to be in its Soviet Union, those were countries. So if they were, you know, like took over a country next to them, what's the name of one of those countries? I'm going to say Poland. I think Poland was kind of in the Soviet bloc. Poland was still a country. And there was countries like Czechoslovakia and Scandinavia, and there's all kind of countries. I'm not saying these were part of the Soviet Union. Sweden, Denmark, Holland, France, Spain, Germany, so on and so on. Just not necessarily in the Soviet bloc, but countries. So back in the origin of this United States of America, the concept was Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, New York, Pennsylvania. They were countries. And they were countries that said, let's join together and make, you know, like a union of us smaller countries into a larger union, you know, to togetherness, a group of us. All these countries join together and become not a Soviet Union, but a republic. Sort of like joining the union down at your factory. You know, you work in a factory or a place, and you go, hey, I'm going to work here at this factory as a machinist. All right, let's do it this way. I am a person who works at I'm driving a truck for a company that has lots of trucks and lots of drivers. And the drivers say, you know, I think we should form a union here. And not necessarily join another union already existent, like the United Truckers Union. No, you got the Steelworkers Union and Coal Miners Union, United Mine Workers of America in West Virginia, a union which has become a mafia, more bent on its preservation than in the preservation of the individual coal miners that belong to it. The idea of a union was pretty good at some point, but then it became an obligation and a detriment to humanity. I'm not saying in all cases, but to my knowledge, I've never belonged to a union. Can't remember ever belonging to a union. Never felt it necessary. But then again, I didn't really ever work in a place that might have been a good idea. I've never worked in I have worked in lots of places. Probably had 31 jobs in my life. But mostly I've been self-employed. And actually, when I was working in a place that could have been considered a place where a union could exist, I worked as an individual for that company or that business. I didn't work in conjunction with any union. And where I could have joined a union, I chose not to. And in those places that it was almost mandatory, like worked in a grocery store where it was mandatory to be a member of the grocery workers union. Didn't last long enough to get in, like 30 days. 29 days, a few places. Never long enough to actually get in the union. Which is probably a good thing. For me. So anyhow. I just rambled on for 17 minutes and said a lot of stuff. And you probably should take notes. You might want to remember some of this stuff. But I was talking about a lot of things, and I kind of ramble here, ramble there, ramble here. And people say, well, they criticize me for that. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You should just take one subject and just speak about that, and that's all. Nothing else until you're done with that, and then you can segue into something else. And I just kind of segue back and forth here and there because it's all important and it's all related, because it's all related to the human condition. It's humanity. It's human behavior. It's human psyche and various aspects of being a human being in the human experience. And excuse me, my style, the way I do things. Not always, but in this case, right now, I am. Keep up, pay attention, because if you don't, you'll miss something. In fact, if you have any questions about anything I said in the first 18 minutes of the show, rewind, play it again. All right. Let me go back. Segue back. Words. Now, I say words because I'm a semanticist. That means I study the use and meanings of words. And people will use the word semantics very rarely. I think about the only time I ever hear anyone use the word semantics is when they say, you're just playing semantics, meaning that I'm jerking words around to suit my purposes. And in their mind, a devious purpose, because to them that's not fair, that's not legit, that's not something a person should do. It's a bad thing to play semantics. That's not the original meaning of the word. The original meaning of the word is, as I've said, the study of words and their usage. As opposed to a linguist who studies languages. The word linguistic in there as a root word, linguist, is a clue. Semantics, not so much, because you hear about semantic or semansis. Just think about the origin of the word in Latin and Greek and so on, and other languages. And you come to that Anyway, the point is, I studied words and their usage, and mostly English words or words that are in the paradigm of English language. And I'm very happy about that because I enjoy it and I'm good at it, actually. I'm actually I don't want to say professional, but I am an expert because I've studied words all my life and their usage. And people use words like semantics. Oh, you're just playing semantics, meaning that I'm jerking words around to suit my purposes and to fit my agenda. But that's not the original word definition, and that's not the way I use it. In fact, I don't know if I've ever used the word semantics in that sense. I don't think I've ever accused anybody of playing semantics. Because words mean what they mean. It's that simple. So we've got semantics, and that's the study of words and their usage. So that's important. Keep that in mind. So if you ever hear anyone say that word again, and it's not used in the context of that definition, they're probably not using the word properly. There are a lot of words that people don't like to hear, and they get hysterical when they hear the word, and which is kind of weird, because a lot of these same people that get hysterical when they hear me say the word and discuss the word or the topic of, let's say, pedophilia or a pedophile person, their brain is wired to just react in a negative, hostile way because they have been manipulated and duped and jerked around, and someone had played semantics with them. There's another word for that, actually. But it's called being brainwashed, indoctrinated, contaminated, manipulated, duped, conditioned, controlled, and turned into a mindless zombie. Words are perfectly legitimate. There's no word ever that's just not a legitimate word that's not used in some context that is true to its meaning. And then, of course, there are always words that people like to play with and jerk around and use inappropriately and incorrectly and contrary to their meaning. For example, think of many words that are just not used properly. I use the word pedophile, and bingo, bam, your brain, explodes, and you're hysterical, and you're like really turned into nasty, mean motherfuckers. That shouldn't be, really. I'm saying shouldn't. Shouldn't. Like, what shouldn't be? Well, in my view, if that's where you go with that, and you're like all of a sudden, oh, you're a pervert, and stuff like that, then there's something wrong with you. Seriously, you've got a mental illness, and you're suffering probably from some sort of psychosis called hysteria. A form of mental illness, by the way. So, just bear that in mind. If I say you're being hysterical, I mean you're being mentally ill, and you need mental help. Let me segue here sideways again. If people ask me, people wonder, I don't know that. Sometimes, frickin' the phone's ringing. Again, hold on. Alright, that was unusual. Kind of strange phone call. For someone that doesn't live here, but I know them. Family member. She wanted a family member, and I'm not going to. It was urgent, got to talk to him real quick, and I'm not going to tell you his phone number. It's not my business. And I don't know who you are. You could be like a criminal or something. I don't know what it is. So anyway, I took a message. Get some weird phone calls here in the studio. All right. I took a message. I'll relay the message. It's the best I can do. All right. And then people call me and ask for people that don't exist or I haven't been married to for 20 years or so. Anyway. So I was saying, we've got words, and words mean what they mean. Now, seriously, words do mean what they do mean. That's not a debatable statement. Naturally, people are going to argue. That's just their nature, I guess, which is really sad to some degree. But see, I don't mind questions. I don't mind someone asking me a question, but I really get annoyed when they think they know something that I don't know, or when they come up with some kind of argument about something as if they know. It's sort of like this, okay? If you wanted to talk to Albert Einstein, okay, no, if you had a physics question and I got a physics question, I want to ask a question about the Mars or something, or the galaxy, or atomic energy or whatever, who would you ask? You probably wouldn't ask me, because I'm not an expert on physics. I get the basics, you know what I'm saying? Basics, gravity and stuff, and well, you can take a nuclei or atom or whatever and split it up and make it explode, or it doesn't matter. The point is, who would you ask? Well, if Einstein was alive, you might ask him. There are others. That guy on TV, what the heck's his name? No, I can't remember his name, but he's well known. You would ask him, because I got one. You would probably ask Stephen Hawking. Yeah, you would ask him your physics question, or questions about the galaxy and stuff. Would you ask me? You might, but I'd probably say, oh, no, because that's not my job. That's not my expertise. That's not my, I'm not scholarly in that. I am not educated, and, shall we say, I'm not profuse in knowledge about that subject. However, if you were to ask me a question about art, oh, by the way, this is Artra Monologues. D. McClung's Artra Monologues. Me. That would be I. That would be I. With a patch and a peg leg and, a boat with a skull and crossbones for a flag. All right. You just wouldn't ask me about E equals MC squared. Because I'm really not knowledgeable about the subject. I'm knowledgeable about a lot of things, and I am qualified to address certain questions and provide certain answers to some questions on various subjects. This idea that a person has to have some sort of certificate or license from the state to be something is pretty stupid, actually. For example, I'm still wandering, still going. It's like we're out on the desert and we're just wandering around in the desert, bumping into cacti and sagebrush and stuff. But it's all an adventure, and it's really hot, and I need a drink really bad. Picture that, me, doing it. And I'm talking, and then miraculously, somehow you're listening to me, hearing me talk while I'm like stumbling around the desert looking for water. Well, I'm actually looking for the oasis, and once I get there, I probably will stay there for an extended period of time. And hopefully there are pretty girls there. And some intelligent people to talk to. Not necessarily that the two are not mutually compatible. But let's say, I've got, license. I don't have a license. I established a church. Now, I think in America, see, I like to kind of limit things to America because I don't really know what's going on in the minds of, say, a Russian guy, living in a village somewhere, that's, Russian guy or a Polish guy living in a small town in Poland or whatever. I'm not as well educated and knowledgeable of the private individual lives of people in the middle of China somewhere. I've never studied that. I have no idea. Well, I have an idea, but I don't have a whole lot of ideas about it. I'm not profusely educated in the life and times of a typical Chinese guy in China today. Hold on. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I wonder. So, to continue along. But, you knew there was a but coming, didn't you? But, I have studied extensively things like the income tax. I have studied various aspects of what we call it, the principles of freedom. I have studied extensively on matters of psychology. I even went to college for that. I have studied and experienced and worked with art for basically my entire life, which is coming up on 7 decades. Quite a ways, quite a while to be studying anything. And I think that my experience and knowledge of art at this point qualifies me to be at least a working professional expert on the matters of art. That doesn't mean I could define the meaning of the word and concept of Impressionism or even Cubism. Not in 25 words or less. However, what we're concerned with today is this. Words of which I have been using and studying and dealing with my whole life. From day one, somebody was speaking words around me. Mother, father, etc. Since I was born, the day I was born. So words are very important, and words are a very important element in my existence. Not to mention I'm a writer, among other professions. Now, I like to call them occupations, because a profession or a job kind of implies that I'm, a job. I have this discussion with my mother from time to time. Mom, it's my job. And she said, you're making any money? And that's not the point. Yes or no, doesn't matter if I'm making any money. It's my job. So I learned, after repeated abuse from my mother, and don't get me wrong, my mother's adorable and I love her to pieces, but she argues with me about things, as most people do. But I understand that my mother simply isn't knowledgeable about things the way I am, and doesn't comprehend things the way I do, because she's my mother, and she's not into the things that I'm into, which is, my mother and I are like totally opposites, I think, in many ways. However, she's 90 years old, and I don't really expect her to be able to discuss and comprehend things the way I do at this point in my life, because, well, at her point in her life, because I took a different path in life than she did. She could probably talk to you about women things, female things, better than me, perhaps. Maybe not, because I've studied women things too, as a part of my educational process of being a human being and living and being knowledgeable about things. But at any rate, she would argue with me. You know, yeah, I have a job. You know, you're retired. You know, like, yeah, I am retired from one occupation, but I'm still not retired from like at least 9 other occupations. Over the course of my lifetime, I have done things other than those things within that list of 9 occupations. I drove a taxi cab for about a month or so. An occupation that I did, but I don't consider myself a taxi driver. I was a taxi driver at the time, but not now, and not after that. Once I quit that job, after, say, a month, it was an experience, and I learned from it, and I enjoyed it to some degree. And it was my occupation at that time. But once I quit being a taxi driver and never to go back to being a taxi driver again, I'm not in that occupation, and I do not practice that occupation. But I'm familiar with being a taxi driver because I was, in fact, a taxi driver for a month or so. Long time ago. Can't remember every little detail. So, I'm not going to... I prefer the word occupation, meaning I am occupied in that field of endeavor. So I am not occupied in the field of physics. I am not occupied in the field of brain surgery. But I am occupied in the field of art and various aspects of art. I'm very diverse. I'm the jack of all arts and the master of quite a few of them, actually. So I use words, and I try to use them properly. I try to keep in mind that the definition of the word is what it is. The word is means is. Oh, poor old Bill, that jerk. Anyway, occupation. I prefer it. It's more accurate in describing what I do and what I am. And the title artist pretty much covers all of it. I paint, draw, sculpt, write fiction, write nonfiction, write porn. Yeah, I love to write porn. I'm very good at it, by the way. And I write commentary on human condition. I occupy my life doing all of those things. I make stuff. I do installations. I do books. I compose and put together and make books. I don't make them physically out of paper and covers. I mean, that's the printer's job, and I'm not a printer. Though I am a publisher. Self-publishing, in particular. So I'm somewhat familiar with the idea of making a book and publishing it, or writing a book and having it printed out and sold, like on Amazon.com, for example. The thing is, I am those things, and I practice being those things. I occupy my life with painting, drawing, writing, thinking. Thinking. So, the point is, what I'm trying to make here is that words mean what they mean. I am familiar with words. It's a tool of my trade, as it were. And I try to use them properly, but most people don't. And I guess it's because their occupation doesn't center around the use of words. If you're a salesman, you probably need to know some words that relate to whatever you're selling. If you're a politician, you probably need to know political words. If you're a mind bender working for the matrix and you have that agenda, the collective agenda, then you might be familiar with words that relate to that. And you are doing your best to turn English language into Babel, whether you realize it or not. That's the job of a mind bender, to bend your mind to suit the agenda of the person mind bender who is bending your mind. All right, I'm going to stop here, continue in the next segment. So, look forward to it. I'll be back. D. McClung, Archer Monologues. This is, by the way, February the 6th, 2017. Time is moving right along. Catch you later.